So let's discuss what is full stack web development. And before going ahead with the e-commerce concept, so I'll be giving you the overview on it related to the IT industries with the current world. So let's discuss with this specific part. So let's move on to the next slide. So what are the topics we are going to discuss in the today's call? So we are going to understand what is e-commerce web applications and what all the technologies are available into the e-commerce and backend technologies. And we'll see what all the payment gateways we can use it into our e-commerce and how we can make it a secure transactions. Then we are going to see the product catalog and inventory management shopping, like how we need to create a product sections and how we can make the specific user experience better. Then we are going to see all the cart checkout pages, like how the user authentication should be there and how the reporting should be there and how we can scale well our website and add the security consideration into it. These are all the points we are going to discuss it. Then along with that, I'll be giving you one roadmap on which if you just learn all those topics, then it will be, you can create any kind of e-commerce web applications. So I'll be explaining you what all the components you need to know before starting and what all the technologies you need to know into the front end, back end before going ahead with the e-commerce web applications over here. So let's start with the first part. The first things comes in any of the full stack web development. If you go into the artificial intelligence, if you go into the data science, if you go to the any technologies, so first things comes into the picture is the programming languages. So we need to be thorough with the one specific programming language, so which is going to start with your career part, right? So if you want to become a full stack Java developer or a full stack Python developer or a PHP developer or JavaScript developer, so it depends upon a personal choice of a person, but the whatever the roadmap will be there, that will be similar for everyone. But only the thing is like the whatever traversing will be there, that will be different. But whatever the roadmap will be there, that will be same. So it can be anything like suppose if you want to go start your career with the Python or a Java. So this is more mainly preferred, right? Like Python and Java, JavaScript. These three languages are mainly preferred to start anyone's career. So suppose think like we are going with the Python, how the traverse should be happen. If you are going with the Java, how the traversing should happen. This I'll be giving you the overview roadmap into the next discussion. So these are the programming languages, as we know, these are all the thing programming languages available in the market. So this is mainly the most powerful programming here. I can just say this is a Python, which is currently trending now, and Java. So these are the two most famous programming language to start with. And we have a C, C++, JavaScript, PHP, C hash, Ruby, Go, and we have TypeScript, Perl, Shift. So a lot of are there, but I have mentioned it through the top of programming languages. I have mentioned it over here. So these are programming languages. In the programming languages, these are the languages are available. So then let's move on to the next slide. So I have noted the top four programming languages. You can select it for your full stack web development, e-commerce, or a full stack web development role. So you can select any of this. So top four programming languages here. So exclude the C and C++. This is for embedded things and it comes into the hardware part of point. This is let's exclude right now, but I am just highlighting the main three top programming languages. Inside these two are the programming languages, and this is the scripting language, that is JavaScript. Even if you are going ahead with the Python, you will be using JavaScript. Even if you are going ahead with the Java, you will be using the JavaScript. So these are the three things which we need to start with. So if you are following, if you want to become a successful full stack web developer in the e-commerce web applications, so at least in any of the programming language, either a Java or a Python, you should be very familiar with it. Or JavaScript is a mandatory part that things comes under the front-end web development. I'll discuss that. So start point number one here is the programming languages, selecting a programming language. This is the point number one. So it can be a Python or a Java. So it has its own, what I say, it has its own specific functionality and speciality. So which makes it more powerful. I'll be giving you the equal number of 50% I can give it for Python as well as Java. There is no any, what I can say, there is no any interconventions between it. So if you are going with the Python also is fine. If you are going with the Java is also fine. But there is nothing like this is more, this is less, not like that. You can select any of it. And JavaScript will be the mandatory part for the client-side scripting here. So this is the first things comes under the full stack web development is a programming language. Which programming language you are going to select? So that is the point number one here. So next point number two. So let's before going to the next point, let's understand what is full stack. So as you know, the full stack, what is the meaning of full stack? A full stack is something which consists of front end, back end, and a database and a hosting part. So once if you are aware with all the four technologies, so then you will be designated as a full stack web developer or a full stack developer. So it can be anything. That can Java if you are a Java developer, if you are a Python developer, that comes secondary. But the initial point of view, what is meant by full stack is the person who is aware of front end, back end, database, and hosting. If all these four things are getting qualified, then you will be a full stack developer over here. So even if it is the e-commerce website, so the role of the today's webinar is a full stack web development into the e-commerce, right? So before going ahead with, I'm just giving you the overview onto the full stack. So what is full stack? What is a full stack development? And how this can be applied into the e-commerce, that I'll come to the next part. So in the full stack development, basically we have a front end, back end, database, and a hosting part here. So in the front end, basically we mean what is in the front end. As you know, I'll be hoping you'll be knowing what is front end. If you are a fresher, if you're not knowing anything on it, I'll be giving you the overview on it as well. So the front end is basically a UI design. So UI design is whatever if any website. Suppose if you take an example of the Guvi. So everyone would have enrolled into the website before coming into the webinar, right? So there was a form, you have enrolled your details and you have clicked the submit button and you got some response, you got the emails. These all things you did. How did you did? By the UI design, right? So there is a UI design in the website, so which is going to help this we call it as a user interface. So the user interface, which it is going to help to collect the data from you and talk with the backend part. So then backend comes into the picture. So into the front end form, you have filled all the details, then backend comes here. It is going to take your request and it is going to give you the response. So what is mean by request and response? So when you have filled the form, like you have submitted name, email address, whatever the questions it has asked, you have submitted, right? It has collected your request and it is giving you the response. So what is the response it has given? Thanks for joining our webinar. Some kind of things it would have been given over there like that, right? So that will be the response it is giving by the backend part. So it is going to handle with our backend part. And what is the database? So whatever the data you are submitting from the form, right? Like suppose whatever the data you are submitting from the form, so that is going to take the request is going to take the data and it is going to store it into the database. So where the database comes into the picture. And hosting. So I can run my web application into my system, but in my system, it cannot be 24 hours on, right? I'll be switching off the laptop in some time. That can be a scenario. But you want somewhere, your website should be 24 hours on. It should not shut down. So we are going to the concepts of hosting part. We are going to host the website into the cloud. In someone else's servers, we are going to store our project and we are going to start the project into the system, so that it is going to be active 24 hours. So whenever throughout the world, wherever you want, you can access the website. So that comes under the hosting part. So this is all little bit overview onto the full stack development in e-commerce here. So basically the four things. So just keep it 4 points into your mind. Full stack is nothing but a front end, back end, database, and a hosting. Front end is nothing but the UI design. Whatever we are going to see into the website, that is nothing but the front end. Back end is mainly which is going to take your request and it is going to give you the response. In this, all the things backend is going to take care, and database is for storing a data, and hosting is for managing the website throughout the world. So this all comes under the full stack web development. So let's understand deeply what all the things will come under the front end, backend, and database. Like what all the technologies are there in the front end web application, web full stack development, and what all the backend technologies are available for the full stack. What all the databases are available and the hosting technologies available into it. So let's move on to the next slide over here. So if you talk about the front-end technologies here, so mainly if you can able to see, it might be many jargon words for the new people, like you will be not knowing what is this Next.js, what is Flutter. If you're not knowing, not to worry about it. If you're knowing, it is well and good. So what are the front-end technologies are available here? So in the front-end technologies, we are having this kind of technologies, like starting with the HTML. So it is your base for the front-end development. Like how Python and Java is the base for the backend, for the front-end technology, HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript is a base foundation for the front-end technology. Even if you want to become a successful front-end developer, then this starting HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you need to be very thorough with it, and you need to know what is this mean and how the things is going to work in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So once you know all these three things, then you will be a successful front-end developer. So it is going to take some time for learning all these three. So once you are familiar with it, let's whatever the things comes under the front end technology, it will be like drinking water. It not be any difficult over there. Okay. So it is what comes into the front end. So even if you're the web development, suppose if you are creating a web application, suppose into the e-commerce web application. So in the next in a couple of minutes, I'll discuss about the e-commerce web applications, what are the things we'll be having and how this is used to over here and what are the components we are going to use to build that. So before that, as you know, what is mean by front-end technology. So front-end HTML, you know, it is a structure of your website. So if you take an example of a GUI website, so whatever the structure you are going to see, that structure is going to design using HTML, CSS. CSS is for coloring purpose, like for styling, like what should be the button color, what should be the navbar size, what should be the image size, what should be the font size, font family, borders. Yeah, these all things comes into the CSS and comes into JavaScript. So JavaScript is a client-side scripting language. It's mainly it is going to work with the client side. So whenever you are going to hit the button, how the pop-up should hover it. So whenever you close, there will be an into mark info icon, right? So once you click onto that, your pop-up module will get closed. So this what all the clicking, whenever you are going to click, suppose if you click any button, how the thing should happen. Suppose if you open a form, how the form should open, how the specific transaction you can apply. So these all the things comes under the JavaScript. So JavaScript is within a JavaScript, it is a very biggest client programming language, I can say. So if you are very good JavaScript developer, if you are very good in the JavaScript, there are a lot of openings for it. And it's like I can say in any full stack or a front-end development, the JavaScript is the main base foundation of the system. So compared to the HTML, CSS, it's pretty easy, but JavaScript is little bit kind of complicated things are there in this. So JavaScript will be, I will be giving the point for it that it is a main basic foundation into the front-end technology as compared to any other technology. Okay. So then comes jQuery. So jQuery is also works with the JavaScript. So this jQuery and the jQuery and the JavaScript are like brothers. Okay. So it is a big brother. It is a small brother. It kind of thing like that. So it works with both the things, like a few things we can't achieve with directly with the JavaScript. So we are going to use the help of the jQuery. So whenever, like suppose whenever you are opening a website, a specific jQuery will get loaded. That means it is gone specific request, the jQuery will go. So suppose I can just tell you one example. Suppose if there was a hovering button, if I just take the mouse over here, automatically that hovering will come down. If I just scroll it, automatically it will go up. So these all the things can be achieved using jQuery over there. So then comes into the Bootstrap technology. You know, you'll be aware of the Bootstrap. So it is a CSS framework. So if a person is a beginner, if he doesn't know anything, he want to go into a shortcut way, the first way he is going to select in the front-end technology is the Bootstrap. So Bootstrap is a combination of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery. So all the four combinations, they have used the Bootstrap. So Bootstrap is a community where I'm going to show you the Bootstrap, where we are going to get the components and discuss the e-commerce things, where we are going, which are the things we are going to use over there. So what is meant by Bootstrap? Bootstrap is a specific website, so where we are going to get all the components from here. So there is no need of worrying most on the thing on the design part. So just we'll go to this site and we'll just get, suppose if you want a button, you can get the button from there. If you want a form, like which is going to take the email, phone number, anything like that, it is automatically, it is going to get it. And it is going to, we can able to just use this kind of components that is using a Bootstrap. Just understand right now, it is a CSS framework. So where we are going to get all the components from it, like buttons, cards, anything, whatever it is required to build any kind of web applications. Okay. Then comes the React.js, AngularJS. So I'm not going to go deep with this. So mainly what is meant by React.js, AngularJS is these both are the single page web application technology. So this is the extensions of the JavaScript. So the React.js is a library of the JavaScript. AngularJS is the framework of the JavaScript. Okay, so this comes the extensions of the JavaScript. So it's mainly is a single page web application. Like in your any of the, like in the, if suppose in the website, there will be no refresher. Suppose if you want to go from one page to another page, you want to go from home page to the contact page. So in some kind of website, you will be getting, there will be some delay. So there will be a spinner and it goes from one page to the another page and it takes some kind of time and it is going to give you the response. But if a web application is developed using React.js or an AngularJS, so there will be a no delay. Automatically, your component is going to get loaded and it is just going to give you the response into a very quick way. Okay, so it comes under the React.js and Angular. Then there is a Tailwind. When it is like a Bootstrap, it is also CSS framework. Then Next.js comes with this framework and Vue.js, TypeScript, Flutter. So Flutter comes basically into the mobile web applications over here. So I have added here abilities because we are going to see like, okay, for the mobile application, what is the technology is there for the front end. So there is a Flutter. In the Flutter, there will be definitely would have been using HTML, CSS. So these things comes under the mobile app web development over here. So these all the technologies are available for the front end. Even if you have mentioned as an e-commerce for the full stack web development, definitely 100 to 100% we are going to use these specific technologies for the front end part over here. So we have discussed the front end technologies which are available into the IT industries right now, and it will be forever. These things will be existing it. So there, there is React.js, there is Angular.js, right? In future, there might be a different frameworks would have come, different libraries would have initialized, but whatever, let it come. This HTML, CSS, JavaScript will be the constant throughout the life. Okay, it is not going to change it over here for the front end part. So this is the one roadmap we can follow for the front end technology. Or else, if you want to become a front end developer, you can just follow this specific roadmap for it, and even for the web application. Suppose if you are going like you have hired as a front end developer for building an e-commerce web application into a full stack IT industry. So at that time, you need to know this kind of technologies into the front end part here. So this is the one thing over here. Okay. So if you have any kind of doubts, you can put it into the chat section. So I have the two screens over here. I can able to see your chats as well. And even I can reply onto the spot. Like suppose if you are having any kind of doubts. Okay. That is the one thing I wanted to mention. So the next part comes into the backend here. So what is mean by backend here? So as I said in the beginning itself, in a full stack, we have a front end, back end database. So front end we completed. So front end is mainly for designing purpose, right? So next comes under the back end. So in the back end frameworks, as I said in the beginning, that is about a programming languages. I discussed mainly, I have just mainly pitched on Python, Java, right? So after learning any programming language, suppose starting with your career, you have learned Java or you have learned Python, right? So you'll be starting with any of this definitely. Or before that, you would have learned C, C++, that is different point. So after coming to the IT industry, we need to have knowledge on Python or Java. That is mandatory part one thing in many of the companies. Suppose if you have learned Python and Java, so what is next, right? That is the one question mark might be in your mind. Okay, I have learned Python, I have learned Java. What is the next thing I need to do? So the next thing is you need to understand what all the frameworks are there in this. So all the frameworks are there so that I can develop a fully fledged full stack web application over here. So what things comes into your mind, right? So once you learn so what comes in your mind? First, whenever we talk about programming, we get in our first thing I'll get in the mind, that is coding. Okay, we'll be simply coding it over here. So after coding it, what is the next image we'll be getting into the mind? Or we'll be getting the websites. Okay, this is a website which is going to develop using coding. And next thing comes mobile applications. Then this kind of web applications we are going to get into your mind. So this is a idea which we are going to imagine, but how those imagination can be converted into reality. So that is with the help of frameworks. So these are the main names I have mentioned here. These are all the frameworks of it. Suppose if you want to become a Python full stack developer and you want to build website like e-commerce web application or your portfolio, whatever it is. At that time, if you are a Python developer, you need to start with your Django is a framework. You need to learn Django. Help of this, you can connect with your front end and you can create one fully fledged backend part so that you can create a fully fledged web application that like e-commerce web application, or it might be portfolio or any kind of small startup projects or any CRM, anything like that. And there are a lot of frameworks. The top two frameworks comes in your Python here is the Django and a Flask here. So these are the two frameworks which is going to come into a Python, that is Django and a Flask developer. So I'll be telling you one thing that in my work, in what I'm into a project, so that I cannot disclose it, but I'm currently working with this technology, that is Flask here, the Python Flask. I'm working in this specific technologies into my workday. Okay, so these are the things works. So once you have learned anything, but depend on your work. But mainly, suppose if you are joining any of the company like any TCS or Accenture or any Oracle like that, so you'll be working, you might be working with a Spring, or you might be working with a Django or a Flask or a Node.js or Express.js or a .NET or a Laravel. So these are the framework. Mainly, you will be if you have hired as a full stack developer, definitely they will be expecting you will be having a knowledge on front end, back end, database. So front end I have discussed in the previous slide that all the things comes. So in the back end, they will be expecting anything you know from here. So at least you know any one specific framework that is going to help you to, suppose if you know let's assume, okay, suppose you have learned a Python developer and you have no Django. Suppose you, I mean, assume these two things you know and you don't know anything else. Suppose if you are hired as a Java developer and you know Java as well, but you don't know the Spring and a Spring Boot. But things comes there here is the things how the in Django there is a MVT pattern, like model view template pattern. So you'll be learning everything over there, like how the URLs works, how the database we can connect, how the front end we can connect, how we can write the logic, how the functions works. These all things you might be learning in it. So same things applies in all other frameworks as well. Only the difference is what? The difference is the syntactic. Whatever the syntax will be there, that is different. So that's it. It will be very easy to learn and occupy that new specific frameworks to it. So I mean to say here is at least you need to know any one of the framework so that you can at least you'll be getting a knowledge onto the backend framework. At least you need to know one specific framework knowledge on it so that it will be easy for learning any other frameworks. Okay, whatever I have mentioned it over here. Suppose if you are going ahead with the Python, these two things are mandatory. One, anything you can learn. Suppose if you want to become a Java full stack web developer, you can know Spring or a Spring Boot. And suppose if you are a JavaScript developer, you need to know Node.js and Express.js, and a PHP means this you need to know. And this is .NET. .NET is also another framework. So .NET is mainly preferred for building a government websites. Mainly it is also it is a 4x faster than any of other frameworks. Okay, so these are the things. So these are the main slide into this entire I can say into this entire session. This is a very important slide which I'm discussing on, that is on the backend frameworks. Okay, these are the very important frameworks which will be there. So, and coming back to the next here. So what is PHP? Priyanka is asking what is PHP. So PHP is also a programming language. Okay, so this is for backend purpose to build a backend framework. Okay, so PHP, once you learn PHP, you will be learning Laravel for a framework of the PHP. So where you are going to can develop a fully fledged website. Even if you are learning JavaScript, you will be learning Node.js, Express.js. What is the endpoint? Endpoint is to build a e-commerce web application. If you are coming with the Java, suppose if you are learning Spring and Spring Boot, what is the endpoint of it? To develop a website that is a full stack web application, let it be e-commerce or a web application such as enterprise applications like that. And even Python, if you are learning Django and Flask, so what is the endpoint of it? For developing an e-commerce web application. So once I'll pitch you one thing, one point over here along with this. So you have heard about artificial intelligence, data science, and like all things are mainly you will be listening into the daily life. What is artificial intelligence? Like what is data science and all. So you cannot directly jump into it, right? You cannot directly jump to the data science or artificial intelligence. So you need to follow the same path. You need to learn Python programming language, then you need to learn one framework. So after you learn with these two things, then you can go with the machine learning models. Then we can all using all these three things, you are going to achieve some kind of data analytics tools, and you're going to, you can just work with the data as a data scientist, or and you can just after this you can go the next step that if you want to go into the artificial intelligence field. So these all the things will be mandatory over there. Okay, so full stack, what is this? Full stack is there, no? So this full stack is something like it is like father of everything. Okay, so if you want to go into any coding field, you need to follow this specific path, then only you can pitch to the specific point over there. Okay, so if you people want artificial intelligence, data science, if you have heard, so this is the main path you need to follow. First you need to know programming language, then you need to know one of the framework, then only you can go ahead with those specific things over there. Okay, they will be expecting you will be knowing all these things, so before going ahead over there. So what are the things we want to learn in Java before starting Spring? So see, when I tell you about a programming language, either a Java or a Python, so the first thing is you need to be very familiar with basics of it. So if I talk you about the basics, so the basics, what are the things will come? There will be data types, variables, if-else conditions, for loops, while loops, and functions, and object-oriented programming. So these things, mainly these are the main important things, whatever I got in my mind, the main thing I have said you. So this should be, you should be very strong into these things, then only you can go ahead with the frameworks. Okay, so that is what about things, Manoj. So I hope. And Prasan is asking which type of the question comparing companies will ask. So basically, see, if you are a fresher, obviously they will be asking you the front end, like backend, like mainly on the programming language itself, like what is mainly on the object-oriented programming. So mainly on the object-oriented programming, you'll be getting your questions if you are a fresher. So if you are a experienced, you will be knowing better as well, right? Basically, based on the job JD, we are going to ask. Suppose if you are going with the front-end frameworks, as a front-end developer role, definitely they will be asking the questions on mainly on JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Specifically, if they are hiring for a React.js or a Angular, they are going to ask the question from that. Even in the backend as well. If you are a backend developer, if you are going with the Spring, they will be asking into the Spring stuff, and like depend upon like which job you are going to ask. And Aman Raj is asking what is the role of MongoDB role in backend. I'll discuss into the MongoDB database. I'll discuss into the next slide that answer. Okay. So this is all about the backend frameworks which is present. So we have discussed about the front end, backend. So next comes under the database over here. So in the database, we are having SQL Server, MySQL, SQLite, MongoDB, Postgre, Oracle, MariaDB, Redis, Microsoft SQL Server. So a number of servers are there. We have Teradata, we have a number of things are there. But our choice, which we are going to use. So suppose if you are going with a Java or a Python, you can use MySQL. So MySQL is a mainly used DB. Overall, it is a structured query language. So what is mean by MongoDB? What is the difference between the MongoDB and SQL here is it is a structure. It will be having some structure. So suppose they will be creating one table. If you are aware of the database the technology on a SQL or any other, so you'll be having this knowledge. Like you suppose to take a user information. Suppose now to enrollment, what all the questions they had asked you? They would ask maybe have the email address and a phone number and a password. Imagine these three things they have asked you: email address, phone number, and a password something. So they will be designing one structure in the database. So there will be a one table. This table is only going to take these three attributes. So then you can only pass three attributes to it. It is a structure, right? So we have created one structured table and we have created all the attributes of it. Only these things will be there, and this data only you need to pass it to our database. So it is structured. What is mean by unstructured? That is a MongoDB. It is not having any kind of structures. You can implement. Suppose you want to pass 3 data, you can pass. If you want to pass 100 attributes data, you can pass. Even in suppose if you are passing your first name, last name, email address. Then suppose next you want to pass into the same table, you want to pass skills. So you'll create a section called skills. So inside the skills, you can create one subtrees into it. Sub collections you can create like in the skills, suppose in the front end, what all the skills are comes, in the back end, what all the skills are come. So these things you can just create. So mainly we can create some one-to-one field, one-to-many, many-to-many fields into a specific collection, into the documents, into the MongoDB over here. So these things, it will be more clear when you are going to learn it. But let's discuss under the front end, in the full stack point of view. So just imagine for right now, database is to just store the data. Suppose if the user is getting logged in, if the suppose user is purchasing some kind of product into our e-commerce web application, where the data is going to store. Definitely, we are going to store the data into the database. Okay, so it can be anything over here, right? So this is a database which we can able to store wherever we feel good. Okay, wherever this is all has its own specialty and own functionality. So database is mainly used to store the data. This is the main important part. And someone is asking us, sir, which is the best for freshers? Okay, SQL or MongoDB. So you can start with the SQL. So before going with the MongoDB, my suggestion is to start with the SQL, because which is going to give you a lot of knowledge on what is tables, what is collection, what is attributes, all relationships can be created from one table to another field, what is primary key, foreign key. These things will come mainly into the SQL. So once you clear on these things, then you can go ahead with the MongoDB, so that you can differentiate what is the difference between the MySQL and MongoDB. You can differentiate it. Okay. If you directly go with the MongoDB, then you will be not knowing what is MySQL. So it is something like a shortcut. Okay. It is something like a shortcut. So start with the MySQL, then a MongoDB. That will be better. Okay, guys. So let's discuss the next part related to it. So we have completed like what are the technologies will be available into the full stack. That is front end. We saw like a back end part, and we saw into the databases. So all the technologies and kind of things is available into the full stack. So let's see what are the best practices for following up for the e-commerce web applications. So we'll see like for the creating e-commerce web applications, what are the mandatory things you need to know so that you can create a fully fledged e-commerce web applications over here. So let's discuss this specific point of things right now. Okay. So let's come back to the Google Chrome. So I'll be opening this roadmap. So there's a roadmap, I have shared it. So these are all the things we have discussed right now. So we have discussed these front-end technologies, we have discussed the back-end technologies, and we have discussed the databases. And these all main three things comes into the picture for the to become a full stack web developer. Now let's discuss with the e-commerce point of view. like what is the e-commerce, what are the things we need to have into the e-commerce. So if I show you the first slide, so we understand the e-commerce application, right? Like first we have understood with the programming, then we saw front end, when we saw the back end things, and we saw the databases now. So what are the things will come? So let's understand first what are the things we are going to come into the e-commerce application over here. So once I come back to this site, any site, like suppose I'll just go to a website called Amazon here. So let's go to this Amazon here. So let's tell here as Amazon, I'll just tell Amazon.com. Okay. So let's go to the Amazon.com over here. So if I want to purchase some kind of, like this is an e-commerce web platform, right? So this is an e-commerce web application here. So if you see here in this specific website into the Amazon, so the first thing you can able to see here, you can able to see the images over here. So you can see the products. Mainly you're going to see some kind of products, and where you're having the specific cards here, and we have the specific information of the cards. This is the one point. So the point number 2 here is, suppose you want to purchase anything, first you need to do what? You need to do the authentication part. There will be the authentication part here. So the authentication part, like sign up and a login page over here. So we'll be having a sign up and a login page. So there is it. You can see if I just come back to the sign in page. So we have a sign up page over here. So this is the second point which we are noticing into one e-commerce web application. So the first point is the authentication, we are having it. And a second point, we are able to see all the products into our home page. So this is the second point, right? So the third point here is, like suppose if you want to enroll into the, suppose you want to log in into it, you need to enter your email address and you need to enter your phone number, so that the verification point of view. So that things comes under the security concerns. It is there. So that one specific user information cannot be shared to other. So these are the things comes into it. So because I have added the verification point of view. So this is the third point which we are noticing into this e-commerce web application. So the fourth thing here is, suppose if you want to purchase, suppose I wanted to purchase, suppose if I scroll already, I want to purchase this watch, and I want to purchase this laptop, and I need to purchase anything, like suppose I wanted to just purchase any other kind of product. So once I click onto the OK, I'll be going to the page that is a checkout here. So you can see we have a checkout. You can see it is telling me your cart is empty. So this is the fourth thing which we are noticing into this website. So once we select any of the products, and when I just wanted to purchase it, the fifth point comes under the payment integration, and the sixth point comes under the what is the confirmation of it. So these are the main things which will be taken care from the client side, right? So as a client, I'm a client of the, I'm suppose I'm a user, I'm a client for this, I'm a customer for it, I wanted to purchase any of the product. So all the main 6 things I'm going to notice as point of a client side view. And along with that, I can just search the specific, I have a search over here, and I can just search anything. Suppose I wanted to search for the headphones, I can just search for the headphones over here. So you can say I have here. So in this as well, you can see there is a reviews we are having, and we are having some kind of or I can say like check boxes. So like I based on, suppose I want a brand in the Sony itself. So I can able to see only the Sony brands over here. And if I just scroll a little bit down, so you can see we have some kind of pagination. These things we are going to call it as a pagination, right? Like going from one page to another page. So this is a pagination. So these are all the things I am able to see as a user experience. I am able to notice this kind of things. So now, as we are going to talk about a full stack web developer point of view. Now, as a full stack, suppose I am a full stack web developer. Now I want to create, I need to become such a developer that I can able to create an e-commerce web application. So what are the things you need to know before starting going with that? So what are the points I have mentioned right in the beginning? So these points you have to keep into the consideration. Then you need to keep the consideration like what all the components I am going to use for building a web application. So I'm using a very important word here, that is components. Okay. So what is mean by component here? So the component, this search bar can be one component. What are the buttons you are able to see? This is the another component. And whatever the logos you are seeing, this can be one component. And what are the cards you are able to see? These all the what are the cards you are able to see? This is also important, the cards. And the next thing here, the checkboxes. And you can able to see what are the things as a developer you can able to notice from here. So next thing, like suppose what is this nav bar? I can able to see this is also one kind of nav bar here. And what are the pop-ups and models, and this we call it as a carousels. So these are all the things you need to keep in the consideration over here. So leave about everything, like leave about like what is like which backend you are going to use, which front end technology you are going to use, leave about all the things. So once if you comes into as a full stack web application, as a full stack web developer, the roadmap should be in such a sense like these things I need to learn it compulsory. Once I know all these things, then you can able to create a fully fledged web application for the e-commerce. That is for selling any kind of products or any kind of things over here. So first and foremost, I'm just going to create the components wise of you. So let me come back. Let me talk with the from the front end point of view. So the front end point of view, what all the technology? Like suppose you will be learning, right? You'll be learning. Suppose in the boot camps, a number of specific tracks. You'll be learning this kind of technologies. Like you'll be learning HTML, CSS, or Bootstrap, or any other kind of things. So once you learn, now you want to create a web application for the e-commerce thing. So this is my aim now. So regarding from the front end point of view, I'm just going to explain what all the main important components we are going to use it for creating a web application for the as per the thing. So first thing and foremost, I'm going to see the components. First, I'll be creating a front end component. I'll just rename it as a front end components. So this makes more sense. The front end component for the e-commerce web application here. Okay. The first thing is you need to see the navbar. So first component is the navbar. So you'll be setting up a navbar. Suppose if I just take the example here. So we'll be having a navbar over here. So let me take the example of the Guvi itself. Okay. So as it is also a kind of e-commerce web application, right? So here we are going to sell the products. Here we are going to sell the courses, right? So this is also kind of an e-commerce web application. If I just come back to the courses page, so you can see we have a lot of courses which are available over here, right? So which suppose if you are going to purchase any kind of courses. So let's understand to create such kind of website, what are the technologies we need to know. So as compared to the now, I'm going to talk about only the front end part right now. So after we'll see the back end thing, what we need to care on it. So in the front end, first and foremost, we are able to see the navbar, right? So you need to be thorough onto the front of the navbar, like navbar component. Then we need to see we have a cards here, right? We have some kind of cards here. So this is, we are going to call it as a cards. So then we need to learn how we can create a good cards, CRDS cards. We call these things the cards over here. So using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, how we are going to create a cards. So after creating a cards, if I just come back here, what is next thing you are able to see here? So we are able to see the paginations, right? Suppose now I'll just click onto the course library over here. So if I just come back to the course library, if I just scroll a little bit down, so you can see we have some kind of pagination. This is they have added through the suppose the category wise, like English, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Hindi. So based on the category wise, the courses can be loaded over here. And you can see there are a lot of courses which is displayed into the home page. Suppose imagine you want to display only 20 pages and rest of the thing you want to keep it as paginations over like 1, 2, 3 kind of paginations. So the next point of here is you need to learn how to create a pagination using a front end developer. That is, we call it as a paginations over here. So the main, I'm just not pointing all buttons, small things. I'm not pointing over here. I'm just pointing on a large point of things over here. Okay. So you need to know how a specific cards can be created, how the navbar can be structured, how the paginations can be created. Then you need to work on how you are going to create a forms. What is mean by forms? Like you have enrolled for this bootcamp, right? You have filled kind of forms. So how the forms can be created? You need to know how you can just create a form. Suppose a person wants to upload the Aadhaar card or a PAN card, which specific things you are going to use? You are going to use the file system, right? Like you'll be using multi-part encrypt form data over there for the uploading images and forms for taking and kind of inputs. So if I just come back over here, if I want to, I'm just going to log out from here. If I just log out it, suppose I wanted to just go to the login page for e-commerce web application, I need to know how we can just create a specific forms, how you can integrate kind of things. So these are the forms we need to create it over here, right? So these are one point of things we need to know before starting with the e-commerce web application. See, when we are talking about the e-commerce web application, so once you are aware of how to create an e-commerce web application for a full stack, then you can create any kind of website. I mean to say any kind, like you want to create portfolio or any suppose in your future, you might be working into the company and you will be interested in doing freelancing as well. Suppose you get some kind of requirements. Suppose if your friends or family or any specific person contacts you to create a website and give it, you can able to create easily. These are all the components you are going to reuse it here. Okay. Suppose I have a forms. These forms, if you are learning, same thing you are going to implement into every project, paginations, navbar, and a cards. So that is why if you are a full stack web developer and you are able to create an e-commerce web application, then you are at the very right place. You can create any kind of web application and you can achieve anything into it. So that is why the mainly things in any of the courses, even if you are joining these boot camps, right? They said they will be doing a capstone project. Mainly, they are going to pitch onto the e-commerce web applications itself, so that a lot of things will get covered, everything will get covered into it, so that nothing will go into left over here. Okay, so it is one of the important point I wanted to mention it. So then once I just come over here, so this comes under the front end part. Okay, so we have a cards and we have the forms and we have this. These are one of the important components we need to know, and we need to know the next important components here as a how you are going to create a checkout pages, right? So you are going to see how you can going to create a checkout page. So like once you have selected kind of courses, how you are going to display it. So then the next important point here is they are going to create the profile page. Suppose once you have purchased some of the products, or if you have purchased some kind of courses, we need to have a profile page, right? So where I can see, okay, these are all the courses I have purchased. So these are all the specific progress which is I am maintaining it. So for that, you need to have to know how you are able to create a profile page and how you are going to display all this. So in the profile page, mainly we are going to display the tables. So we need to know how we can use the tables component and display specific structures into it. So those are some of the important front-end components which we are going to pitch it over there. Okay. So next, if I just come back and talk about any other thing, just we'll notice what else we can able to fetch it from here. So if I talk you about the search bar, these things always going to come from where? These all things comes under the forms category. As I said, I'm not going to mention small things here like radio buttons and all. I'm just pitching the main important components which is going to require at the time of the developing a e-commerce web application for the front end. So the next things comes under the category wise. So you need to learn something like how you are going to load data category wise. How you are going to load the data category wise over here. So this is also one of the important things. So this is one thing which is going to use the forms and the specific cards based on the category wise, how you are going to how you are going to display that specific part. So the next thing, if I just come back to the website again, if you let me go to the home page, so what else I can able to see here? So I scroll a little bit down, so can able to see how you are able to, these are the things which is comes in the front end web developer. As a front end web developer, you will be easily can see we have a card here and we are differentiating all the data through the sections wise, and we need to create a footer section as well, right? So these things we are going to have. So now you can see we have all the things over here and kind of things. So this comes under the front end point of view. So as a full stack web developer, I'm not talking about the administration guideline. So now I'll be talking you through the admin point of view. I'll just going to create another stuff here with the admin point of view. How you are going to create an admin panel? Suppose if you are able to see the courses here, definitely there will be the administration for it. So from there, they are going to upload it and it is going to display it over here, right? And you need to you need to understand how we need to create a fully fledged admin panel here. So you should be able to create an admin panel. Definitely into the admin panel, again, you are going to use the forms to insert the data. So once you click onto this button submit, once you click the button submit, you will be able to see the tables. So where whatever the data you are submitting, you can see it into the table wise. And if you want to make it more clarity, you'll be using cards so that the data can be displayed properly. And definitely there will be the profile pages over there. And next comes, I'll just add the one more part, that is authentication here. So this authentication means it includes all the sign up page, login page, logout pages, and even admin panel is also going to come into the admin authentication. So like you are logging as an admin, so where we have the admin access over here. So these are the main important components. I have mentioned it over here. So these things you need to be very thorough. It's not like I'm just you'll copy paste the cards and you'll copy paste the forms. It's not like that. I'm saying like, suppose I'll tell you to create a form, a user can take name, email address, phone number, anything like whatever. I'll be give you the information. In based on those information, you need to be able to create any kind of forms. So when you can able to create those kind of things, when you are very thorough with the forms. So in the forms, there are a lot of things comes. So there are forms, the specific input can be text, date, time, file, image, and radio buttons, checkboxes, like validation for the email kind of things. And the form should take only the mobile number, only it has to take the numbers. So these all things comes under the forms here as well. When I talk you about this kind of like, suppose if I talk you about the cards, In the cards, there will be a card header part, there will be a body part, and how you are going to display the specific data into it, and what all the fonts you are going to use, and how you are going to make most user friendly. So these all things comes under the point inside it, each point of view over here. So when I talk you about the checkout, so it is a checkout is just a name, right? Inside a checkout page, suppose if I have ordered the 2 courses, I wanted to buy Python and Java course, how you are going to use the user friendly, like how you are going to make the specific page user friendly, so that whatever the courses you have chosen, it can be displayed in a very neat manner. So in this checkout page, we need to handle all those things. So these are all the things coming as a user interface, as a user point of view, as a design point of view. I have discussed these are all the main important front-end components which you need to be very thoroughly for getting a fully fledged web application for the front-end part. Now let's talk about the backend. This is all about the front-end I have discussed. Let me talk you about the backend now. So this is about the front-end. Let me create it here. So let's create a new specific thing for the backend. BSC backend. So as you will be definitely you will be learning a Python or Java, and will be having a knowledge on a front end. Now you are moving ahead with the backend here. So as I discussed, why we need backend to handle the request and to store the data into the database. This is the backend which is going to track our data. It is a backend which is going to help you to log in, a backend which is going to help you to sign up, a backend which is going to connect with your database and the front end part. So this is the main middleware in the full stack, right? So in the backend technologies, what are the main important things you need to learn for creating the web applications here? So the first point of here is comes under same thing, that is authentication. So in authentication, I mean to say, like in the authentication, I'll just tell here in the authentication, what all the things will come here. I'll just use a place. Okay. I'll just tell in the authentication, you need to create how the login API or a sign up, SIGNUP sign up API you are going to create. So what is meant by API? API is an application programming interface. So this is going to help you to pass the data from the front end, from the front end to the back end, and API is going to pass the data from the back end to the database. So what is API? API is an application programming interface which is going to help for the request which you are going to send. Suppose if you are doing a sign up, suppose I am going to this sign up page, there will be one API. So that API, what API is going to do, it is going to collect all the data from the form, and after collecting all the data, it is going to validate few kind, like whether the email is already exist or not, whether the mobile number is exactly 10 digits or a 15 digit you are passing. Some kind of validation is going to do by the backend through the help of the API key, so that once all the validation is getting passed, then whatever the data you are just submitting from here, our backend is going to validate, and this backend is going to store the specific data into our database. So this database can be anything, either it can be it can be any SQL servers. Okay, it can be any SQL servers, like it can be SQL server, or it can be a MongoDB, or any other kind of things. Okay, so this is the backend is going to do what? It is going to store the data from the front end, and it is going to store data into the database. So see, in this webinar, I cannot give 100% clarity, but I am trying my best to give it. So in such kind of boot camps, if you are joining it in there, you will be getting an entire knowledge into it. So this I'm just going to tell, I'm telling in a very shortcut way, but these things will be in the boot camps and kind of courses. If you are enrolling it will be more clarity over there. So for now, just I'm going to say you here is what is meant by backend. Backend is just going to take the data from the front end. It is going to work with the API validations, all the success. It is going to store the data into the database. That is what the main role of our backend here. So for the e-commerce web application, as I mentioned, the authentication part is very important. Why? Because I cannot share my personal data with any other person, and third person data I cannot see it, and other his specific data anyone cannot able to see it. So for that specific purpose, we are going to keep the authentication part in most of the website. Mainly the strong authentication, how strong you are going to create your authentication part, like sign up and login, that much strong your website is going to be there. Okay, so that because of that only we can able to track you. So how Google is going to track you? From your email address, right? How if I am enrolling any kind of, suppose I'll just log in here. So if I just log in with the Google account, so if I just try to log in with my Google account over here, if I just try to log in with the Google account, what happens? So I'll be logged in with my email ID, right? I'll be logged in with my email ID. That means now I have my separate session. Whatever the courses I'll be able to purchase over here, these courses only I can able to see. I cannot, these specific courses, I cannot able to, these specific courses, whatever I have enrolled, anyone cannot able to see, right? So that is why this all the security concerns comes over here. So how you can provide more secure to your website by using the authentication. This comes in the sign up and login. So you need to be very thorough with like how you are going to create a sign up and a login kind of things and a logout functionalities into your website. So it can be using Java, or it can be using Python or any other frameworks. By using the framework, you are going to achieve this kind of logic into your backend by using the programming languages. Okay. So that is the first point of thing you are going to see. The next point here is I'm just going to tell you in a very simple way without not going into very much deep into it. That is CRUD. So what I mean by CRUD, CIUD, it's nothing but a first C is for create. So C stand for create operation, and R stand for read operation, and U stand for update operation, and D stand for delete operation. So this is the main important things comes into the backend point of view. We have created the front end part, which has all the design we have completed for the e-commerce. Now I need to integrate the logic into it. Suppose if I just come back to here, I am able to see the data, right? So you can say I'm able to see the courses here. So whatever the courses are present into the database, I'm able to see all the courses here. So what is mean by this? This is the read operation. So what they have done here is they have created one API key that is going to fetch all the courses from the database and display into the home page, right? So that is mainly, we are going to call it as a read operation. We are just reading the data from the database and just displaying into the home page. So using a front-end component, you have displayed all the data. So what you are going to do now, you are going to connect the API key, whatever the courses are present from the database, you are going to iterate and you are going to do the read operation, and you are going to display that thing into this data, right? So that you are going to display into over here. So this is what the things you are going to do it over here. So the next thing comes about the, as I said, about the authentication. Suppose you are purchasing a product here. Suppose now I'm just going to purchase any course. Suppose if I just try to click on to this Microsoft PowerPoint, I wanted to purchase this course. So you can see it automatically took the name, email address, and some kind of phone number over here. So once it is done, so what happens here is once the data has been once the data you are just passing it over here. So then if you just click on the button submit, then you are going to fill out the form. You are submitting. You are kind of submitting some data, right? So that is something we are going to call it as a insert operation. So we did create or a insert. We basically we are going to call it create. You can just call it as an insert as well. Okay, create or a insert operation. So you are inserting some data, right? So you are inserting some data that is going to insert into the database. So this is the one important point you are just doing into this, right? So we have, suppose if you are for the enrollment purpose, you are submitting some kind of details and you are just hitting a button submit, then that is your insert operation. So this is one of the major operation which we are going to do into the any kind of website. Either it might be e-commerce and any other website. Okay. And suppose next, so we saw what is read operation. Read operation is going to fetch the data and is going to display from the database. Suppose I wanted to enroll for any kind of things. I'm submitting the form, then that is the insert operation. Suppose I wanted to see what all the courses I have purchased, so that I can able to see into my specific data over here. Suppose these are all the courses. Suppose if I have data, I have purchased it. So it is going to save into my profile page. That is also comes under the read operation. Then the next things comes under the update. Suppose I wanted to update my details. Suppose my name is Anis Rahman Khan, right? Suppose I wanted to rename my name. Suppose I'll just rename to just Anis Rahman. I wanted to read Khan there. So I can just rename my name. So that is what update operation is been done. Suppose same way, if you have purchased any kind of product and you have paid the payment and you want to cancel the order. So already the data has been stored into the database that you have purchased this and this so order, and you wanted to, you have changed your mind and you want to like refund, you want to offer the refund, or you wanted to update something, you can update it. So update operation is going to take place. Then comes under delete. Suppose you want to cancel the order. So once the cancellation of the order, once you hit the button cancel, then the cancellation will happen. So already whatever the data has stored into the database with the insert operation, that is going to get deleted. That is comes into the delete operation. So this is the main base foundation into the backend. What? That is CRUD operation. That is create, read, update, and delete. These are only 4 things which is going to take place into the entire website. Okay, not only the e-commerce web application, into any of the website. These are the only 4 places majorly it is going to take place for any kind of operation over here. So now you are going to the ATM point. So if you go to the ATM, you are going to what? You are going to see what is the balance, right? When you are reading balance, that is what? Read operation. They would have written a program for read operation. Suppose if you are taking amount from it, so then what happens? That is the update operation, right? Suppose if you are creating a that is really the update operation. Basically, if you are having a 10,000, if you are withdrawing 2,000, now it has to update to 8,000, right? Their update operation is going to take place, right? And suppose once before going to the ATM, and you need to have a bank account, right? So you are going to create it. So they are going to use the create operation. There the create operation is going to take place. They are going to create your account. Then only those things can be performed. Then you want to close your bank account. Then suppose you go to the bank, then they are going to apply the delete operation. So that is only main thing happens. Here also, as I said with the example, I have taken the live example of the website of the Guvi. Here you are able to see the read operation. You are able to see here. As like suppose if you are doing a enrollment or you are doing a sign up and login, that is the mainly it is a insert operation. Suppose if you are doing any payment gateway, that is also comes into the insert operation. And suppose if you want to delete your account, that is a delete operation. Suppose if you want to update your profile data, update the courses, that comes into the update operation. So tell me, what are the extra things you are going into any of the website? Only this 4 operation is going on, right, in the entire website. But I'll tell you one thing, there are a lot of middlewares between it. If I just simply talk about create, I've just given you the overview. If I am just talking about the create, insert, delete, update, but there are a lot of middlewares in that. Before inserting it, there is a one middleware. They are going to check whether you have logged in or not. So before inserting, they are going to check whatever the data you're passing, that is authentic or not. So before inserting it, whether they are going to check into the database that whether this data is already present or you're doing some kind of duplication into it. This is also going to check. So suppose some people will be there, they are going to add unnecessary email addresses for logging it and doing a sign up. So before doing a authentication part, they're going to verify the email, whether this exists or not. Then only it is going to store it into your database. So this kind of there will be a lot of middlewares in the insert, even if in the delete, even if you are updating it, even if you are reading it, there will be a lot of middlewares that are going to come into the picture. So these middlewares, you are going to learn things into all the boot camps, such kinds of boot camps, like how you are going to add the middlewares for it, how you are going to do the validations point before. See, simply blindly we cannot insert the data, blindly we cannot delete the data. So, and we are not going to give this access to anyone. And coming point of the admin point of view, if I just talk you about the admin point of view, as we have added admin panel, right? I'm not, as a user, I can able to see this specific data. Definitely for every website, there will be the administration. So that should be a very strong administration, like no third-party person can enter into it and enter all and disclose the data of users. So we need to be very careful while creating an administration panel for creating any e-commerce web application, or let it be any kind of applications over here. Okay. So for admin panel, they are going to use two-factor authentication. I know many people will be knowing, suppose if you are using an Instagram, so there is an option called as a two-factor authentication system. If you are not done, you can do it today, that you can make it your account more secure. Like if a hacker or anyone, if they know your email address and a password also, directly they cannot log in into your accounts. So it is going to ask one specific password. So where you need to enter it, then only login is going to take. That is going to call it as two-factor authentication. So in the Play Store, you need to download one app, that is Authenticator app, something like that. So there it is, for every 30 seconds, one code is going to get generated. So whenever you are logging it, you need to pass that specific code. So this code, no one can disclose this one. No one can take this, no one can hack this kind of things. Okay. So these things you need to add it into the e-commerce web applications as well. This for the providing more security. So as we have specifically mentioned here, right, that is how we can specifically tell about the performance in the into there is the secure transaction. As I said, we need to add more secure. Like suppose if you're adding a payment integration into it, so you need to add in a such a way that suppose there it is a payment is not a small thing, right? Suppose if you're having suppose a person is doing any transaction, we need to make sure that we are suppose if you are displaying here 500 and you are taking 10,000 rupee, it is not a good thing, right? So there can be any number of cases into it. So if your person is, if whatever the things you are showing here, that much specific amount it has to debit from the specific account, and their account data should not disclosed by any kind of person. So even we need to take care those kind of things into the payment gateways and secure transaction. So there are a lot of payment gateways, like if you want to integrate into the e-commerce, so you can integrate Paytm integration, you can do Razorpay integration, you can do, these are the two important, and you can do another, that is what do you call it as for the international purpose. There is one of the thing that we are going to use, that is a PayPal. Yeah, they are going to use the PayPal, right? PayPal integrations also you can do for the international transactions. So these are the main these are transactions which we can add it into our e-commerce web application here. So as I have discussed about the product catalog blocks, how we need to specifically display all those things, and we talked about the checkout pages, and I have talked about the user interface authentication, and how we can do the authentic account management, how we can display kind of data. And coming back to the performance and the scalability over here. So how we are going to perform the scalability, that is e-commerce, analytics, and reporting optimization. So mainly this is for the administration part. Okay, this point is for the administration part. Like, and like suppose like they have displayed the courses here, right? There should be a admin tool, so where they can differentiate how that courses are going, how many people are properly learning from it, what is the progress of the students. So this all, to track all those things, there should be a good analytic tool, so that it is going to give you the every student report. Or suppose if you talk about the Amazon or a Flipkart, they need to have a specific optimization reporting point, where they can see which all the product is getting more sold and which is having greatest reviews, and all those things can be used into the optimization part. And coming back to the scalability, what is mean by performance in the scalability means? So that means, like, see, I just click on to, if I just refresh this page, automatically it is going to take 1 or 2 seconds. It is giving to the performance wise, it is very good, right? It is giving us a response very good, how your website is going to perform. These are all the things we need to take care. And coming back to the scalability, now imagine we have said you about the front end, back end, and the database, right? So they are using a MongoDB. Imagine they are using a MongoDB. So they have to use such a server, such a spaces. Suppose if once at a time, this website, there are 1,000 people are going to log in at a time in one specific second, it has to accept all the data and it has to give the proper response. That is mean by what? Scalability. It should not struck the website, and it has not the website should not get crashed, right? So these all things we need to take care. Like if we need to test, like at a time, if the 100% are logging it, your website should run very smoothly. And at a time, if the person is suppose if you are enrolling for the today full stack web development bootcamp, right? If you are enrolling for it, if 1,000 people are enrolling at a one time, it should give up it all the data. It has to take it securely, and it has to store it into the database. So that means your database has to be in such a like it has to be very powerful, and your server should be very powerful, so it is going to enable the scalability in the like you are scaling. We are just scaling, like we are just enlarging the specific space into it. So that is what comes into the scalability. We need to take care on those specific point of view as well. Then coming back to the e-commerce security consideration, as I said, in the e-commerce web application, the security is very important. Like one data cannot be disclosed from the another person data. It cannot be enclosed. Like we don't need to merge these kind of things. So these are all the best practices I have just said you, related to the front end and the back end, and I have said you the database as well. So these are all the things which we comes into the picture, right? And like once you have completed, once you have designed a website using a front end, back end, database, everything is done. So then comes another, which is the hosting provider you are going to choose. So the hosting, you would have heard about the like GoDaddy, and you would have heard about VPS, like mainly you would have heard about GoDaddy and any number of things. Like mainly the most famous is GoDaddy, right? So what is mean by that? That is like whatever the website you have developed, you can host it into their servers, so that they are going to manage the server. They are going to manage your website in a very good way. Like they are not going to be any glitch. So anytime you open the website, it will be always enabled, and data is not going to pass to anyone. Whatever the code will be there, that should be secure. Whatever the database you have used, that should be secure. That no one can exclude that specific kind of data. So we need to be very, very thorough for choosing any kind of email service, like email services or hosting services mainly. Okay, so all the things comes under the full stack web development into the e-commerce. For becoming a very successful full stack developer for e-commerce, you need to follow all these protocols. So if you follow all this, then you are very good full stack web developer. And it's not only applicable for the e-commerce application, it's applicable for every kind of application. So once you just relate the things with the e-commerce, as I said in the beginning, that is going to applicable for entire stuffs, like any enterprise application, any small scale or any large scale industries. These are all the things we are going to take care over here. Okay.